We are turning now to the Gospel for Maundy, Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 in Year A. Matthew chapter 26, 17 to 30. Again, loaded. So we will do the best that we can here to talk about as much of this as makes sense. The disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" And this is just phenomenal to me. He says, "Go into the city and you're going to find a guy. Tell him, I'm gonna eat the Passover at your house." Don't you want to know who this guy is? And why his home is just available to Jesus? I'm fascinated by this. And so the disciples do. What's interesting here in verse 18 is Jesus says, "My time is at hand." He has spent the entire Gospel of Matthew saying, "It is not yet my time. My time is not at hand." But now all of a sudden we have this change. My time is at hand. What's his time? He's about to fulfill the purpose for which he came. What's that? Dying on the cross. The whole reason Jesus came to earth, took on the body of the creatures that he had created, lived among them, taught them, is so that he can redeem them with his very own body and blood. His time is at hand. This is the purpose for which he has come. And he's going to keep the Passover because this is going to be the last Passover that's ever necessary. They won't need to keep Passover anymore because he is going to become the Paschal Lamb. He's not only going to deliver them from enemies, and not only deliver them from slavery to people who would oppress them, like happened at the original Passover back in Exodus when the people were led out of slavery in Egypt. He's going to deliver them from sin and death forever. So this is the very last Passover that ever needs to happen. And he's going to celebrate it at this guy's house with his disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus directed them. They obeyed, and they prepared the Passover. The guy whose house Jesus said, "Go ask him," he obeyed too. He made what he had available and at the disposal of Jesus and the disciples. We keep going back and forth. Do we need to obey? Yes. Can we obey? No. Sometimes we can, and they did here. So now evening has come. He's reclining at the table with the 12 disciples. What are they talking about? John, the Gospel of John, gives us a much more detailed picture of this. Matthew kind of skips over all of that. But as they're talking, Jesus kind of drops this bomb right in the middle of them. "One of you is going to betray me." I don't know about your family festivals and fancy dinners, but that's not exactly appropriate or expected dinner conversation. But Jesus has something that he needs to teach them. And so he says what's true, like he always does. "One of you is going to betray me." This would have been weighing very heavily on his heart. And verse 22 says, "They were all deeply grieved." All of them? Was Judas deeply grieved by hearing that Jesus knew what he was going to do? It says, "They each one began to say to him, 'Surely not I.'" And he tells them, the one who dips bread with me is the one. And then he explains, this has to happen. Just as it is written, the Son of Man is to go, just as it is written. He's been trying to tell them this for the last 3 years. They've got all the prophets that foretold what was going to happen to the Messiah. But he says, woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born. And that's interesting to think about too. We don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but if Judas had never been born, then what? Jesus needed someone to betray him. Why? Because it was prophesied that he would be betrayed. And so that he understands fully in his body as a human what it feels like to be betrayed. It's the worst. Betrayal is so devastating because it erodes your ability to have any kind of trust in that person for any reason ever. Betrayal is one of the worst things, sins against yourself, to try to forgive and move forward from. And so Judas has a part to play here. Jesus didn't force Judas to do this. Judas wasn't predestined to this. God works with what's in people's hearts. My BSF leader likes to say that God doesn't send anyone to hell. He just gives them more of what they choose. And Judas did not choose Christ for some time, evidently, prior to this night. So Judas says, surely it is not I, Rabbi, which must have just felt like a stab in the back and a slap in the face. Judas knows he's the one, but he maybe was ashamed, or maybe, I don't know. It's hard to get into Judas's mind here. But Jesus tells him, nope, it's you. You're the one. And now we have the institution of the Lord's Supper. Verse 26 kind of signals a shift here. Jesus took bread, he blessed it, he broke it, and he gave it to them. And so that's the fold pattern that our Eucharistic liturgies follow. And what he says is, take, eat, this is my body. There's a couple significant things about this. He doesn't say take, put in a monstrance, look at it. He doesn't say take, put in a tabernacle, save it for another time. He says take, eat. In our tradition, we don't save over consecrated bread or consecrated wine because Jesus doesn't say anything about that. He says take it and eat it. It's meant to be right now, in the present. Here it is, take it and eat it, consume it. And so we don't do things that other traditions do where they sort of preserve stuff that was consecrated but that didn't get used, because it's clear what Jesus said. And then he also says, this is my body. And he doesn't say this is a representation of my body, or this is going to be a memorial of my body, or this is kind of to remind you of my body. He said this is. Something happens in Eucharist. Bread is still bread, but it's now also Jesus's body. It doesn't cease to be bread. You can see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, but it is also now his body. There is something unexplainable and mysterious about the consecration of Eucharistic bread and Eucharistic wine. This is my body. And we believe that. We believe in the real presence. And then with the cup, he says, drink from it, all of you. He doesn't say drink from it, all of you, except Judas. He says drink from it, all of you. The truth is that none of us is any less of a sinner or less of a betrayer than Judas. We are all Judas. We have all betrayed Christ by failing to be the people that he wanted us to be and that he created us to be, failing to achieve the purpose for which he has placed us in certain places and times in our lives. He says, drink from it, all of you. His body and his blood are universal. They are for everyone, for anyone who believes who he is and wants to surrender their lives to him. And then he says, this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. This connects us back again to the Exodus 24 passage where the blood of the animals was sprinkled on the people for the forgiveness of sins. Here, Jesus's blood in the wine goes into us, and it achieves our forgiveness. When we take the bread and we take the cup, there's forgiveness in that. Why? Because he said so, and because he gave his own life for us. He was the perfect sacrificial lamb. It's poured out for many for forgiveness of sins. It's available to anybody. You don't have to be special, smart, good, holy, consistent, honorable. Drink of it, all of you. Everybody, come on. There's room. And then he says, I'm not going to do this again until my Father's kingdom. And so that's a promise that we will feast with him again at the eternal banquet when he comes to reestablish his reign on earth. They sing a hymn and they go out to the Mount of Olives. There's 2 Gospels for Maundy Thursday. The reason for that is because we start the service. Do we start the service? Is that the first thing? I can't remember exactly where this is. We have a foot washing also. And so if I have time, I'm gonna try to get to the John reading for the foot washing. But we'll just kind of see how time goes. So see you all on Maundy Thursday.